Salam, everybody. Hope you're doing well. I'm back here with another episode of the Justice for All Now show. And today we are going to be discussing the minorities in India, specifically the Muslim minority in India, and what is happening. Today I will have a guest on my show called with Dr. Shaikh Ubaid, who is a longtime activist and who's been working on this on the cause of Indian minorities for a very long time. So, as coronavirus is attacking countries throughout the world, and specifically another set of events is occurring in India. Late last year, Prime Minister Modi's Hindu nationalist government announced and passed a very controversial law in support, claiming to be in support of minorities in neighboring countries that in fact openly discriminated against Muslims and undermined India's secular foundations. Then early this year, protests over the new law snowballed into a pogrom in which dozens of people, mostly Muslims, have been killed in Delhi. The Atlantic reports that the response that the Indian government has had to the virus is too little too late. They have put down a lockdown, and keeping with many of its policies, a headline-grabbing initiative was announced with very little warning, and one that did little to address the many problems India is facing dealing with the coronavirus. It puts responsibility for containing the outbreak on citizens instead of instituting a robust official support system. And it's punishing the most vulnerable in society. Many critics have noted that this does nothing to solve the country's problems with public health and safety, and everything that is wrong with India's response flows from that period late last year and through the early parts of the year when the government set the tone for what is now the harshest lockdown with police brutality, lack of transparency, and a shortage of general compassion for the people. And within all of this, what has come, the people who have been the most vulnerable and the most attacked have been the Muslim minority in India. India is the only country in the world that has weaponized the virus against its own people, against its own population. And to discuss this and the use of media, especially social media, to attack minorities, we will be having a discussion with Dr. Shaikh Ubaid. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, I'm well. How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah. Ramadan Mubarak.
Ramadan Mubarak to you as well. We're so grateful to be safe in our homes and be able to continue the works even despite all of what's going on. But I'd like you to introduce yourself to our supporters and our audience. You have a long history of working on the cause of Indian minorities. You are the co-founder of the Burma Task Force and the Muslim Peace Coalition. And you've been working, you were one of the people who set the record and had Modi banned from coming to the United States. So please share a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, how long you've been a practicing physician in the United States, and where did your human rights work start?
Assalamu alaikum again. My name is Shaikh Ubaid, which is written right down there, except with 3 additions. When I was born, my parents did not name me doctor, so the DR is extra, and there is an extra H there.
Okay.
You can add as many H's, but
Okay.
it's hard to pronounce in English. So my name is Shaikh Ubaid.
Okay.
I'm a practicing neurologist who have recently, about 3 years ago, moved to Albany, New York, the capital of New York State. Originally, I'm from Hyderabad, India, which used to be a Muslim kingdom, autonomous Muslim kingdom, till India became independent, and then India annexed it by force. And I came here in the 1980s. I came here in 1986. I was involved in some student activism while I was in the medical school. And after coming here, I got more active in activism. And India has been suffering many pogroms against Muslims. And in 1992, the famous Babri Masjid was demolished, and lots of Muslims were killed after that. So my activity level increased. But in 2002, when a pogrom was unleashed on the Muslims in the Indian state of Gujarat, where the BJP party was losing by-elections, and Modi was sent from the federal government to make sure that the state remains under the BJP controls. And he took advantage of the 2001 September 11th terrorist attack in New York. He thought that the world was not paying any attention, and he unleashed a pogrom and polarized the state. And since then, he won 3 elections in Gujarat as a chief minister. So we launched 2 organizations. One was called Iman Net, and Iman Net merged with 2 other Muslim organizations. All these 3 organizations had come up in response to the Gujarat pogrom and in response to the claim by the BJP that this was an experiment which was successful. BJP is the political front of RSS, which is a fascist organization. It was launched after his founder met with Mussolini around 1925. And later, when Hitler rose to power, they became fascinated with Hitler and almost worship him. You just have to read the books by Goldwalker, one of the earliest leaders of RSS, to see what their plan for India is. They said India belongs to Hindus. They say Hindi, Hindu, Hindustan. That means India is for Hindi-speaking Hindus. And we thought it was just a joke, but they have been on the rise because they have been slowly infiltrating the education department, changed the textbooks, history textbooks, infiltrated the police department, law enforcement department, and also infiltrated. I'm quarantined, so I'm in my bedroom, coming across to you. So sometimes people might come in. So if that happens, I will apologize. And the pogrom of 2002 was very disturbing. And that's why these 3 organizations were launched, and we merged and we launched an organization called Indian Muslim Council. And we knew what we were up against because thanks to the work and name of Gandhi and the work and name of Nehru, the first prime minister, India had enjoyed a very good reputation in the West. And Modi, whose party RSS had killed Gandhi, had actually been using the name of Gandhi and using the name, the good name that India enjoyed. And we knew how difficult it would be. So we decided to educate our Indian Muslims, fellow Muslims, and other non-Muslims from India, Americans in general, do interfaith work and launch a broad-based coalition. And this coalition helped us when we launched the movement that you referred to, when Modi was being launched in the US as the next prime ministerial candidate for the BJP. So he was coming here. He was going to inaugurate a department, the university in California. He was staying at Waldorf Astoria. He was meeting with the businessmen. And we said, there's something going on here. This guy who just killed 2,000 Muslims and raped 500 women is now going to be the next leader who will be running in the elections for the prime minister. So we launched a movement, and his visa was banned. The first person in American history under the new law, which bans anyone who was involved in egregious violations of human rights. So Modi was that first person. He can now come to the United States because he is the prime minister. He is the head of the government. So for 10 years, we were able to, stop that launch that had happened. But eventually, because of the hard work that the RSS had done, Modi was able to win the elections.
And so he's won the elections, and he won the elections because he made some promises. Specifically, his ideology is a Hindu nationalist ideology. He's won based on that they're going to make the people of India better, right? So now looking at the response to the coronavirus and what is happening in India right now, where the government is offering little in the way of a safety net. Only after the lockdown came into force and there's a growing outrage, did the finance minister actually announce an aid package, and it's about $22 billion value, which is very little compared to what others governments elsewhere have provided. I believe Britain, Spain, and Germany have offered stimulus packages of 20% of the GDP, and India's amounts to less than 1% of its GDP. And it says reading reports, we find that there's been no help for day laborers or other workers in similar unorganized sectors. It contains no measures for rice or wheat or and the actual amounts of support will last will be about like $7 a month perhaps for people. So how will the voters I mean, this, I'm sure this has infuriated the voters, and will continue to infuriate them. But as we watch this happening, we also watch the government um, weaponize this virus to divert attention from what is going on with the Indian economy and divert it and address, hold Muslims responsible. So I'd like to get your insight into what is, putting that in a way that we can understand it here sitting in the United States.
For you to understand, you will have to just look at what ISIS did in Iraq and Syria and what Germany did, now what Hitler did in Germany.
Mhm.
So this is a fascist movement. Modi came to power initially by saying, "Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas." That means he will take everybody and he will be focused on development,
Mhm.
because India had been developing very fast under Manmohan Singh's government,
Mhm.
the Congress government, and many people voted for him. But the fascists, the supremacists are crazy people. They don't do things which are logical, they seem to be.
Mhm.
And initially, when people are brainwashed into supporting them, it takes a long, long time for them to realize. Till the very last minute, when most Germans supported Hitler. And the other thing that is very specific to this fascist, ultra nationalist, or supremacist movement is that uh, they not only go after and hurt those people and communities they are scapegoating, they do not hesitate to sacrifice their own community, because they think that their grandiose delusional plans are so important for their nation that any price is worth paying. So Modi, after coming, he did some funny thing called demonetization. Overnight, people could not use their currency notes, and small business suffered. And we thought, well, now people are going to not support him, but he won the elections again. And after winning the second elections, he had accelerated his anti-Muslim agenda. Uh, for RSS, the 20% people, uh, about 15 to 20% Muslims and their supporters, and then about around the same amount of Dalits are their biggest impediment in implementing their fascist agenda. So what's the best way? Just disenfranchise them. It's going to be very hard to kill all those 200 million Muslims, but start disenfranchising them. That's why he enacted those laws that you said,
Mhm.
and in which people from Hindus from other countries can get the citizenship, but not the Muslims. So those Muslims who are disenfranchised have no remedy, whereas the Hindus who get disenfranchised can say, well, we are the citizens of next door countries, and they will get their citizenship back. And Dalits who get their citizenship back this way will not have the affirmative action program.
Mhm.
So Muslims will be disenfranchised. Dalit will have the votes, but Dalit will not get the benefits that they were getting under the affirmative action program. So this is a very diabolical mentality that they have, and that is why when the coronavirus hit India, they were not prepared. Modi was busy wooing Trump, taking him around, showing him the biggest crowd that Trump, in his narcissism, wanted to see,
Mhm.
supporting him. And then Modi also wanted to test the ground, so he unleashed a pogrom that you referred to in Delhi. More than 100 people were killed, mostly Muslims, and the Western media and Trump, who were there, did not uh, show any, uh, uh, any reaction to that, and that emboldened Modi. And I was thinking that why, when the whole world and all the governments in the world have been busy coming up with the incentives to help their population, um, Modi was not. So I had come to a conclusion, I do not have proof to it, that they actually wanted to get herd immunity by sacrificing as many people as possible. Mostly, they thought that the poor people will die, and they do not have to spend any money
Mm-hmm.
to save. So that was, I think, was his mentality when he came up with, you know, that beautiful stimulus package. I
Mm-hmm.
was just today listening to the press conference of the governor of New York, the epicenter of this epidemic in the U.S., and he said a lot of things about give us update. He also reminded people that the virus will stay alive on plastic and vinyl and metal for 72 hours. It will be hanging around in the air for 3 hours, and then talk about what's happening in the hospitals, etc. Modi, when he first talked about the virus, he said, just make some noise, and then the next time it was some light, some candles, and increasing the superstition about the virus at the same time, just putting people through the exercises that fascist leaders do to keep them, under their control. They will say the most absurd thing, and people will believe and act on that. So that was happening, and then all of a sudden, without any warning, he shut the country down. And India has a huge population of migrant labor who go to these big cities to work and then send the money back to their villages and towns. And so happens that all these people were stranded. And then eventually, when they walked hundreds of miles to their homes, the virus had started spreading.
Mm-hmm.
And virus was introduced into India by 1.5 million tourists who came. There were people who were coming from outside. There was a Hindu person who came from Dubai. Happened to be Hindu, doesn't mean that. But then he infected lots of people because he threw a party of 1,500 people.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of these things were going on, and then there was also a meeting of the Tablighi Jamaat. So when Modi realized, he let that meeting take place,
Mm-hmm.
and then he used those Muslims in the Tablighi Jamaat as a scapegoat, because he realized that his plan, non-existent plan, had failed, and the virus is spreading all over India, and people might blame him. So he started saying that, well, these Muslims, some of whom had come from Indonesia and other Muslim countries for that meeting, had deliberately started spreading the virus, and many BJP leaders were going around saying this, and people started to believe it. And now we see that Muslims who are poor and also minorities are have no government aid, and also they are being uh, not admitted in the hospital out of hatred and out of fear, thinking that these Muslims are deliberately going to spread the infection. Even doctors are believing that. It shows how much work RSS has done over the last decades. Many of my classmates, which I grew up with, Hindu doctors, I do not recognize them anymore because of the hatred and the fear that they have, and the way they support Modi.
So I
Uh,
want to talk about this. So the point we have seen this, that now the point has come that there is editorials in the paper calling Muslim bad apples. There are signs outside hospitals saying we are not accepting Muslim patients. There is ads in the newspapers in major cities saying that we will not be accepting Muslim patients. We have also seen statements from doctors, which were later revoked, that in Gujarat, patients were being segregated according to their religion. So, and this is a result of everything that has transpired. But I would like to talk about how, in a country that large, how do these hateful messages and how do they spread so fast? And specifically, you had sent me this link to referring to the BJP IT cell. And I want to learn more about what is this BJP IT cell? How does it function? And if you'd hold on just a second, we'll show the clip of Amit Shah, who is the Interior Minister of India, and he's talking about this. And if I'd love it if you could translate what he's saying. Okay. So just give me a second while we bring up that clip. Oops, I'm having a little.
उसने थोड़ी चालाकी कर दी, बड़े शोक में मैसेज डाल दिया। आज अखिलेश यादव ने नेताजी को मतलब मुलायम को चाहा, अब मारा नहीं, नेताजी और अखिलेश जी 600 किलोमीटर दूर, मगर उसने डाल दिया और सोशल मीडिया की प्रदेश की टीम ने सबसे बगैर उसको नीचे भी डाल दिया, सब जगह कह रहे हैं और जनता में भी एक ऐसा बेटा है जो पूजा करने को हमारा क्या होगा वगैरह वगैरह वगैरह, महिलाएं भी टूट पड़ी, चल गए, ऐसा करना नहीं चाहिए, मगर उसने एक प्रकार का माहौल, काम तो है करने जैसा मगर करना मत, समझ में आता है।
So yes.
So that was the right hand man of Modi, Amit Shah, the Himmler of India, and Modi calls him the architect. And there's a famous person in Indian mythology or history, that Chanakya, who was an advisor and was a very cunning politician. So you think that is Chanakya. He is that's a pep talk to the BJP workers just before the election, saying that they should not worry because of demonetization, etc., that the party is going to lose. So he was trying to increase their morale. So there he is saying talking about his IT cell. He says that they have the power to take any news, whether that's a factual true news or it's a fake news, and just make it viral. And he said people are going to believe that, and they have. So he was pointing out to their capacity, their capability to spread their messages, and also the work that they had done in which the people are going to believe whatever they say, and that happened. And you said as to how such a wide subcontinental country, India, the messages are spreading. You had in the background that the the WhatsApp symbol there, and WhatsApp had played a very prominent role in the spread of hatred, just as Facebook did it in Burma before the genocide of Rohingyas.
And so what you're saying is also shared in this the Wire newspaper, and shared this on their website as well. Real or fake, we can make any message go viral. Amit Shah to BGP social media volunteers. Yeah. So this IT cell that has so apparently Shah told the volunteers that in Uttar Pradesh they have a WhatsApp group with 15 lakh people. So 15 lakh would approximately be 1.5 million people, or
15 lakh is 1.5 million.
Yes, 1.5 million people.
10 lakh is 1 million.
Okay, so 1.5 million people on a WhatsApp group, and there's another with 1.7 million. So about 3.2 million people are on that WhatsApp group. So is this what is used to spread this hate that we're seeing? Because for something like that to spread, that, oh, Muslims are the ones who are causing coronavirus, and it's spread all over the, into little villages as well, that cannot be happening without some sort of systematic way that this message is going out. Is this the same? So this was used during the election, and now they, with 3.2 million people, Amit Shah himself says that we're able to make anything go viral.
Those are just the groups in one state, in Uttar Pradesh. So they have, hundreds of millions of people on their WhatsApp groups, and people of India, mostly are illiterate, and they have this, they are naive people, so they believe anything that comes on the WhatsApp, technology. They tend to believe what the government is saying there, because they believed Gandhi, they believed Nehru, they believed Indira Gandhi. And most of the time, those people had some integrity, had lots of integrity, especially Gandhi and Nehru. So they think that anybody who's who's governing the country should be listened to, and WhatsApp, whatever is coming on WhatsApp, they listen to. And then there's the other thing: the mainstream media is mostly bought over. Wire and a couple of other media which have refused to, are being persecuted every day with new cases. Even during this pandemic, recently the editor in chief of Wire had to, uh, you know, go to a court hundreds of kilometers away.
Exactly.
So one of the person is Arnab. Arnab, who is worse than anybody that you see on Fox News.
Who
So
is
both
Arnab
mainstream
Goswami, right? Arnab
yeah, Arnab Goswami. Both mainstream media as well as social media is being used to create this tremendous amount of hatred. So much so that we have seen from the time of Gujarat that people hate and fear Muslims so much that they say killing the Muslim children is okay, because the children of the babies of snakes are going to grow up into snakes. That's what their slogan is. And they were cutting open the bellies of pregnant women, 9 months pregnant women in Gujarat, and then they killed them with butchered them with swords, etc. So similarly, that kind of attacks and that kind of hatred is just growing in India.
So we're going to talk about Arnab Goswami in a little bit. I want to talk about what you just said, the killing of. So recently, I was on Twitter, and I saw a call to action by what looked like RSS members. And they were all dressed in saffron and had huge swords on with them, and they have made a call that May 3rd, as soon as this lockdown is taken on, the lockdown is lifted and people are allowed to go back on the streets again, that people need to gather in parks and plazas, in any big major gatherings. And it was a call to Hindus that where has your manhood gone? And as soon as this comes out, we have to slaughter all Muslims. So these sort of messaging is consistently coming out on social media. So how fast has RSS grown? Because a lot of times people say, "Oh, what I don't know what you guys are going on and on about RSS. They're just an act, they just do calisthenics, or they teach us how to do yoga." And their branch here in the United States, they practice yoga and they do Raksha Bandhan with the police departments, and it's all like nice and friendly. And here, these are my and which is very different from Indians I've known and grown up with or been around. Their ethos is very different. So tell us more about RSS, because that's something that I believe a lot of people don't realize. There's 1,001 organizations were listed as terrorist organizations except RSS. So tell us more about RSS.
As I said, RSS was launched exactly at the model of the fascist party, and then Nazi party became their model. So this extreme ultra-nationalism that Germany is only for for Germans and German race, and they are the most superior race. So India is only for Hindus, and they are the most superior race. When you combine that with religious supremacism that you saw in ISIS, so you have two huge evils coming together. So that's what RSS is. They have that now. They are emboldened. So you have their videos in which they say how many millions of volunteers, trained volunteers, who know how to kill and fight, and how they are using guns. Some of their cells are using bombs. They have bombed and killed good police officers. They bombed the Samjhota Express, which was a train running between India and Pakistan, killing lots of Pakistanis in that. And of course, in America, they are not going to do that. And they are trying to infiltrate the US power centers, both the Democratic Party as well as the Republican Party. It's so surprising that Democratic Party, which is now leaning more towards progressivism because of what Trump has been doing, their candidate, Joe Biden's one of the campaign managers, is Amit Jani, who's very close to Modi's inner circle. Uh, so you can see the infiltration. So what they do, that at the local grassroots level, they are very dedicated people. They go and work with the police departments, invite them to the social gatherings. Then they give tremendous amount of donations to the politicians. So the supporter of Trump is one such person. Leading that group is one such person. So they have India. Indians are one of the fastest growing groups in the US, and they are highly educated. All of us are highly educated, and we are very upwardly mobile. And a large number of Hindus who come into America are coming from the upper caste who have been thoroughly infected with this RSS virus.
Mm.
So they have been very successful in hiding their true colors and slowly, infiltrating. So not only the political system in the U.S. is corrupt, so you can buy votes and influence, but even these people are so cunning that even at the grassroots interfaith levels, where there will always be a chair for Hinduism, because everybody, Muslims have the chair, Islam has a chair, Buddhism has a chair, Christianity. So that chair is now being occupied in many places by the RSS folks. Imagine, will we Muslims allow ISIS supporters to represent us in the
Mm.
and will the others allow them to come in? But because RSS has been so thoroughly camouflaged and have taken over all the most of the Hindu temples here,
Mm.
that they are the one who are the only one talking about Hinduism in the U.S. So this is a cancer which is spreading very fast, and we have to educate our interfaith partners. And once we do that, once they realize these are the people who killed Gandhi, these are the people who are killing Christians and Muslims, and who want to make India Hindu Rashtra and have that this Hindu law where Dalits, the original inhabitants, the tribal Adivasis and the Dalits who are the outcasts, they will be the outcasts. They will be doing the menial labor and will have no rights and no, including the fundamental rights. So once they realize, once the good people realize that, we will start seeing successes in our struggle.
So that also brings about the question, because we get this a lot too, right? We don't want to carry the burden, the guilt by um, you know uh, like that 1 degree of separation or that 6 degree of separation, where there are extremists in many religions, many faiths, like Buddhism. Our religion is oftentimes hijacked. So, and often the call is, where are the Muslims who will speak up against this, right? So, is that fair to make that call to Hindus who do not believe in this ideology, who are um, flabbergasted that their country has been overtaken by these folks, and a lot of times supplemented by money going out from the United States and funded by through funded through dollars, US dollars. So what would be your call to your former colleagues, to your friends, to people who you grew up with, who would possibly are offended that their religion is being hijacked like this?
They, they should come out and do what Muslims are doing, and they should avoid the mistakes that the Muslims made.
Mhm.
Remember, sometimes we think that when you are in a minority, you are already being, discriminated against. So we will be able to manage our extremists. Don't talk about them. We will, and that's happened in the 90s.
Mhm.
There were group active in the youth when we were involved with Imam Abdul Malik Mujahid, the Bosnia Task Force, etc. We came across those kind of fringe groups.
Mhm.
So they are going to hurt you. So it is in the interest of every community to expose and marginalize the fringe groups and talk about them so that others also know. The other thing is, then you should also understand why the other people are a little scared, and you should try to convince them that, well, Islam doesn't stand for terrorism. Similarly, Hinduism is not. So you condemn it. If a Muslim who gets into conspiracy theories and come up with these crazy ideas about ISIS, you have seen me active in social media. I just demolish them. I say, and make sure that they are not part of any of our circles. So if a Hindu is not going to condemn RSS, that's the first thing. That's the minimum thing that you can do, right? Whereas you see Muslims going and fighting against ISIS and getting killed, Muslim armies going and bombing ISIS and Al Qaeda. Where is the Buddhist army bombing the Buddhist terrorists in Burma? Where is the Indian army or Hindu volunteers fighting and making sure the RSS is eliminated? It's not. So, but at least condemn them. And there are a lot of, and we have been so successful because there are a lot of moderate Hindus who are good people, decent people, and also because they know what's going to happen to them. they have been standing with us. So make sure that those are the people who are going to be representing Hinduism. One of the first um, work on the Hindutva, which is the ideology of RSS, Hindutva, which is not Hinduism.
Mhm.
The spread of it was done by Rukmani Kalimaki. She is now one of the topmost journalists of New York Times. So when she was a junior journalist who had just come out of the journalism school and was working in a local Chicago area newspaper,
Mhm.
uh, I suggested to her to look at this issue because of her last name. She is of Romanian descent, but because of the last name, these Hindutva folks thought that she was a Hindu, and they took her into their meetings, etc. And she realized that all the Hindu Sunday schools were being run by these RSS folks because other Hindus are so much into the meeting the American dream that they are not offering or their free services and volunteering, whereas these dedicated RSS extremist terrorists had infiltrated and taken over, Hindu temples and Hindu Sunday schools. And then she went to India and she saw how the Hindu suicide squads are training, etc. So it came in. I think the name of the newspaper from northern Chicago was Herald, some Herald, which I forgot. So this has been a growing phenomenon, which American media should look into, should do do exposes on them, as well as I don't know what the FBI is doing about this.
Interesting. So there were some. We do have the capability of our audience to ask questions.
Okay.
If you guys have questions, please post them in on the Facebook Live commentary, and we will take them as they come in. I believe Peter Friedrich left some comments on CAA as well as Hindu nationalist ideology. He's been working. He's a journalist who's been working to expose some of, and perhaps Peter, you could, if you're still watching, if you could take that under your wing and make that expose about RSS in taking over every temple or temples around the United States, that would be an interesting read. I wanted to. We were watching Goswami, the journalist Goswami, and that's I wanted to talk about that as we start wrapping up. Is So let's run a clip on Goswami. Then, if you could frame this clip and let me know what is exactly going on here, who is Simi, what was actually happening, and how this translates into what is happening to journalism in India right now. So just give me a second to pull that up.
Well, you are doing that, and if Peter is there, I'm going to say hi to him. He's doing excellent work.
Reading times now, I thought it might be a good idea to watch the news hour because it might be one of his last primetime shows in a long time. His topic of discussion that day was it right for the 8 Sini militants to be killed in the Bhopal encounter? And this is how he set it up.
So what was the Simi? Could you tell me a little bit of background before we move on?
CB was a student organization, student Islamic movement of India, who wanted to spread Islam in India and want to eventually make India, a Muslim state, like many Christian churches are saying and doing. So RSS started to, RSS, which has infiltrated in the Indian intelligence agencies, started using CME as a scapegoat, banned it, and that happened like 30 years or so ago. And every time they have to put anybody who's getting active, if they don't like him or her, they put the label of CME and put them in jail under just draconian laws, and their 30, 40 years of their lives are lost by the time they come out.
And Goswami runs a very popular news hour show on which channel?
At that time, he was with, I think, Times of India, and he was leaving it. We thought that that's a good riddance, but he was leaving that channel to launch his own channel with all this tremendous amount of money that the supporters of Modi have, this businessmen, the multi-billionaires in India, who have now bought over everything. They helped him. One of the BJP member of parliament is his partner, and he is the co-owner of a new channel, Republic TV, which is, worse than anything that you see in the US right-wing media.
Okay.
Arnab claimed that these 8 men were planning a major terror strike and were a great threat to national security. Now, where did he get this from? From the Madhya Pradesh Home Minister, who shared this with the media without a shred of evidence to back up what he was saying. Yet, Arnab presented this to his audience as the truth. Why? To justify the encounter. But does a news journalist mislead his audience in this manner? No. To the first question that Arnab asks of those who were critical of the Bhopal encounter. Now, how does Arnab Goswami know that these men were terrorists who had conducted bomb blasts? He doesn't, because they have not yet faced trial. And he knows that. These are not convicted criminals. He knows that. But he has kept this from his audience. Does an unbiased journalist do that? No. Now, his next 2 questions. Here's a counter question. Would Arnab take responsibility if it were proven that these 8 men had been murdered in a fake encounter? I wonder. Arnab's next question focused on Constable Rama Shankar Yadav. Why does Arnab assume that the killing of Constable Yadav would not shock those who are criticizing the encounter? It shocks us all. The men who slit that man's throat should be brought to justice, but not executed as Arnab Goswami wants. Sadly, the evidence that would show Constable Yadav being killed, the CCTV footage inside the jail, we're told the CCTV footage does not exist. The CCTV cameras in the jail were not working. And Arnab Goswami swallows that glaring lie. For him, simi equals terror equals punishable by death. No questions asked, no need for a court trial. Not even when the STF chief of Madhya Pradesh conceded that these men had no arms on them. Arnab Goswami does not seem to see the need to ask, why were these men not asked to surrender? What danger did these 8 unarmed men present to 25 armed personnel of the Madhya Pradesh STF? Was killing them the only option available? The nation wants to know, but it seems Arnab Goswami does not want to know, does not want to tell the truth anymore. And that, for all of us, is dangerous.
Yeah.
So
So not only that, Arnab doesn't want to know, but Arnab wants to tell a different story, saying that these were these unarmed prisoners who were executed. Encounter is the term used for this, hundreds of people who were killed while they were in custody, and most of the time it was proven later that it was just a lie. So Arnab not only wants us to believe that, but he wants to think that all Muslims are like that and they support them. So if more Muslims are killed, there should be no reaction. That's what Arnab wants, and he should be just like in Rwanda. Once, hopefully there will be a time when RSS will be brought to justice, and people like Arnab should suffer the same fate because they are equally complicit in these mass murders and in mass rapes. Uh, One of the worst kind of human being that you can come across.
And this is very troubling because this is another step in, as we study genocide, we fight against genocide, we work against it. These are steps. There's certain stages of genocide, and when you have the media, and we saw this in under Bosnia as well. It was when the media turned against its own population and the newspapers that people were reading and the TV shows now. And now you have WhatsApp and Facebook. And we saw this in Burma where it took Facebook 1,400 days to take down the hateful messages against and the lies that were written about the Muslim population there. It doesn't even have to be Muslims. This could be used anywhere for any population, right? This is something that these gigantic corporations Facebook has ties with the new geo systems, that is Ambani's
Yeah.
corporation. And so where do we put, who do we hold responsible? And this is, and as you said, it's absolutely right that media has this extreme responsibility to say this. And yes, like Peter is sharing, that it's same tactics everywhere around the globe, that we see that here as well, where major news channels, whether it be MSNBC or Fox News, it's being used by parties to, cull this vitriol. So we do have a question by Peter. So he says, Dr. Ubaid, you said RSS is modeled after fascist ideology, which is very systematic. Do you see HSS activities in United States as a deliberate infiltration? If it is systematic, what is their goal?
Hi, Peter. Very good question. HSS is, of course, a deliberate infiltration, and their goal is to make sure that when actual genocide starts in India, or this slow genocide that is happening when Muslim and Dalit and Christian traders are not allowed to sell their wares, when they are being persecuted, they are either they die or they change their religion. So when these things are happening, there is no outcry from the most powerful country in the world, from the US. So they have spent tremendous amount of money and tremendous amount of time to infiltrate in the US, and HSS is one of their topmost front in the US.
Mm-hmm.
And very easy to ask them, ask HSS or HAF, which is doing lobbying in the US, are you willing to condemn RSS? And they will not. And that tells us that's a very good litmus test. If a Muslim is not going to condemn ISIS, you know that there is something wrong. So if a Hindu is not going to condemn RSS, you know where they stand.
No, definitely. And it will come into our homes. I mean, if people don't realize that, it is coming here. I'll share an incident here in our county, where young students were organizing an event about the CAA and the NRC, and how it was oppressive towards Indian minorities, especially Muslims, um, and it turned out, and the people leading it weren't other students, but there were elders, and some of the children were very ashamed of the way their elders were behaving. And we want it's coming here too. And it was, and largely it's a great our county is a great interfaith. It was formed on that interfaith principle, actually, this Columbia area. But to see that hatred like coming out, and adults bullying young children because they were able to wanted to express their opinion in their own schools. So that was something that was terrifying to watch, just as a parent and as a community leader. So Peter has some more questions. Can you tell me, what is the OFBJP? What do they do, and are they connected to RSS?
They are the overseas friends of BJP, and they are their political wing. They are the one who are mobilizing, the Hindu community to support those candidates which are going to support, which are going to not do anything about the RSS activities. So this is the overseas friends of BJP, and then they will do fundraising. They will make sure. I mean, the IT cell of BJP, there was tremendous amount of input from the people who learned how the Republican Party and how other political parties, and similarly, some of them had studied how Netanyahu had run very successful campaigns. So from two major countries, from Israel and from the US, BJP works closely with the right wing, and they get this expertise and they implement it in India.
He's asking, are they foreign political parties operating in the United States?
I do not know the legal framework of that, but of course they are a foreign political party operating in the US. I do not know if they are registered or not, but of course that's what.
Farad, then, if they're Do you know if the foreign agents
So
registration?
if they are just doing, supporting BJP, which BJP is not illegal, so maybe, but doing
I
fundraising
don't
and
believe
all
that
that.
you have to be illegal to, if you are anybody who is acting, and you don't even have to be paid by them.
Okay,
You, if you are acting on the behalf of a foreign government, then you have to be registered under the FARA Act.
good, good to know that. So we will be adding that to our arguments when we meet with the U.S. politicians here. Well, what you said, Sister Hina, is very important about the children. We have a big light at the tunnel because the children in America are taught that the things that were done in the past, slavery, the eradication of the Native Americans,
Mhm.
Jim Crow laws, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, they are all bad things. And most of the children grow up and they accept these facts and they are more pro-human rights, whereas in India it's just the opposite. The more you learn the history, the more. So if we just stop the inflow of RSS people coming to America, just like American embassies and consulates, they make sure that nobody who supports Al-Qaeda or ISIS, nobody who supports at one time Communist Party should come to here. Nobody who supports the Buddhist extremists in Burma should be allowed to come here. Nobody who supports the JDL or Kahane or Kach or Kahane Khai from Israel should be allowed to come here. Similarly, nobody who supports RSS should be allowed to come here. And the Hindu community here will be eradicated of these, recurrent waves of virus infection. And their children, they are good kids. You have yourself seen. They feel really ashamed of what their parents are saying and doing.
Yes, we saw that, and the support that they gave their friends and class fellows was heartwarming to see. And that's the future. That's the future that we all need. I mean, any sort of hate speech against people, that it's hard, anywhere. If it's occurring in Pakistan, if it's occurring in Somalia, if it's occurring Saudi Arabia, anywhere in the world, it needs to stop. And we cannot keep passing these. We keep saying never again, never again, and then we keep acting in the same manner. And that is this is something we hope for the future, and we pray for the best. And this is something that I feel like even within our a lot of times in Muslim families too, we teach children the five pillars of Islam. Like, we teach them to pray, we teach them to go to Hajj, but we don't teach them the prophetic mission of Qist. We don't teach them how to fight for justice for whomever, even against your own selves, right? That is a in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like, God has given us that mission, that when you stand for justice, even against yourself. So it would be wonderful for the next generation of people, of our children, to take that mission forward. Well, it's been a great conversation, and we hope we just started this show, and we hope to take it forward. We want more discussions on these topics, because unfortunately we see a lot of discussion elsewhere, but it's never framed in a way that we can understand sitting over here. So this has been enlightening. Thank you so much for being, and I know it was a very short notice too. So thanks, Peter. That means a lot coming from you. So thank you so much for that. And we'll be here again. So thank you, Dr. Ubaid. If you have any, ending comments to make.
You are doing an excellent job, and both Justice for All and you and the leadership of Imam Abdul Malik Mujahid have been involved and supporter of it. People should realize what a tremendous amount of challenge that we are facing, not only in India but here in the US, because this movement is an international movement. So if they want to know more, they should follow. They can follow me on Twitter. Sheikh Ubaid is one word, SHAIKUBAID. I am also on Facebook, Sheikh M Ubaid at Facebook, and then Justice for All is has lots of information on that. There is Coalition Against Genocide that we when created, which is a broad-based coalition. There are other Indian Muslim organizations, Indian American Muslim Council, North American Association of NAEMA. So we are here to help you learn and help you just you can do your own research. We'll just provide you pointers. And this is a virus, a cancer which has been in the US for a few decades and is spreading.
Well, thank you so much for being here. And for all of you who have been listening, we've been doing this for at least for the past 4 days now. I'd love to get your comments. What did you enjoy? What did you like? Who would you like us to bring on next? And where all we should be broadcasting this? And let us know what other topics you want us to address. We will be addressing human trafficking. That is something that Justice for All works on as well. We'll be addressing rape as a weapon of war and genocide. We have several shows lined up for you all to watch and learn from. So let us know. Follow us on Justice for All on Facebook, JFA.org on Twitter, and let us know how we can, what other, our main focuses are Burma, the Uyghur cause, India, and Kashmir. But let us know how you can help and how can we help you become better advocates for justice. Thank you so much. Salam alaikum.